Hi, this is Andy with the PSA informing everybody out there that if your parlay requires the use of multiple screenshots just to send one individual bet to somebody, A, that person's not going to read it, and B, you are indeed a downright filthy parlay pirate. Is that you?
I am a pirate.
Of course that's you, and that's what's brought you probably here to my video.
I'm an excellent pirate.
Which we should start on right now with this Tuesday night here in the NHL, the classic Tuesday night big slate. A lot of games, so where do I start on this slate? Where do I start? Maybe it's going to be like that movie Memento. You want to do it that way? You want to start at the end and work your way back? You know, I had this weird habit if I picked up a magazine back in those days, I always went to the back and then made my way to the front. So in honor of how I used to read magazines, let's kind of do that because there's a game that I want to talk about that's probably going to be the last on people's minds. Because when you think about games, you usually look at the marquee match. Oh, we got Bruins and Toronto. Let's start there. Now, let's go all the way to the back and start with the Sharks and the Columbus Blue Jackets. The worst in the West and the worst in the East. They're facing off late night on a Tuesday. And why do I bring this game up first? Well, first of all, because the Sharks are already near and dear to our heart with a couple of wins under their belt when we sniffed them out after they went 8 games winless to start the season. But there are a couple different reasons this time around. Number one, we got the return of their top pick from last year, guy who had 2 points in his first game, Macklin Celebrini. He returns to the lineup. Now, what have we been doing with these San Jose Sharks? The Eklunds and the Granlunds and the Toffolis. We've been taking them for points many times throughout the course of the year. They've been doing so well. Their point props have all been jacked up. So now we're re-importing Celebrini, who's going to be thrust right on that top line between Toffoli and Granlund, I believe. Yet we don't have to deal with the prices that they have. Like, you want another great example? On this slate, you have Arturi Lehkonen returning to the Avalanche. He's going to be playing with McKinnon and Rantanen. What's his point prop at? A good minus 180, minus 185. But we're getting Celebrini here in a home game where some books have the Sharks favored. I had to kind of double take. Wait, the Sharks are favored? They probably should be favored in this game. Either of these teams can win. It's going to be, I'm hoping, a wild game. But start me off with that minus 125 point for Macklin Celebrini in this game versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. Look, this game, it can go one of two ways. I brought this up in the last year and a half. You guys know, once we get to April, once we get to May, you're going to be screaming at me, please just say the word over. Under. So when I'm going to take calculated sniffs, calculated gambles on points and overs, I'm going to do it earlier in the year, and I'm going to do it with teams that have the potential to maybe go wild. This game can dud out. You're talking about two of the worst teams, but sometimes that witch's brew of two bad teams playing. Anytime you throw Columbus in one of these, Columbus has been in some wild games this year. They've had some big wild wins and some big losses, like when they went on the road last week. So they could be a good ingredient to help stir this into a pizzeria over. I'm going to try the over 6.5 goals. It's even money, if not plus. And I think we could have a chance for some potential ruckus in this game, and they make it easy for us with these line combinations. I already gave you Macklin Celebrini, but what about Macklin Celebrini for 2 and Toffoli for 2? They hit that in their only game together, and they're not playing the best defense in the world, so you do that. That's over plus 1,000. And then on the other side, I already like that top line as part of the line combos. Anybody between Chinakhov, Marchenko, and Sean Monahan. But if you do Sean Monahan and Marchenko, the two guys who are less likely to be line changed, like sometimes Chinakhov gets moved up and down if the game isn't going their way. But typically Monahan and Marchenko have stuck together regardless if they're doing well in a game or not. So if you do those two guys together as a line mate 2-point parlay, that's over plus 1,000. And you won't even need the use of multiple screenshots. And if you're thinking, hey, I don't want to stay up that late, or I don't want to go with these two awful teams, fine, I got some other stuff for you. Let's go to Carolina, where pretty much every game they're holding their opponent to 2 or fewer. You're getting awful prices on it now. So then I was looking at line combos. Look, I'm completely fine with the Aho Svechnikov, which is like plus 102. But I do want to introduce you to something. You guys know how we've been talking much of the time about these line combos and how it can provide opportunity to get great plus money bets. There will be more of them tonight that I reference. But there's also a backdoor one. This is another one of the Andy inventions. It's called the Gostisbehere. And we're going to return to that very pair tonight. But last night, it was Nico Hischier and Dougie Hamilton. So the recipe here is if you have a plus money defenseman who's a power play one defenseman who's good, you're getting a good value on his point. You take his point in conjunction with that guy who is often on the top power play, but he's that lone guy from line 2. So last night, it was Nico Hischier. So we went with the Nico Hischier assist with the Dougie Hamilton point and 2 shots on goal for Dougie Hamilton to build a big same-game parlay. And this style of combo was built by Shane Gostisbehere and Marty Necas, because I've been watching Marty Necas. He's playing incredible, but he's got nobody on his line that we can pair him with. So what I like to do, because this power play is so hot and they run their power play unit out there for a good 90 seconds, I like taking Necas, who's a perimeter player and gets a lot of touches, and Gostisbehere, who's also running the point. I like that combo. So give me that. First of all, Shane Gostisbehere point. I should have opened up talking about that. It's unbelievable how the prices keep right. Marty Necas, minus 200. Sebastian Aho, minus 200. Svechnikov, minus 190. Shane Gostisbehere, who's on the power play with all those guys, plus 130 something, plus 132. He's been raking up points. So I'm happily taking this point prop. And then I'm also putting in the assist for Marty Necas and the point for Shane Gostisbehere. And the little cherry on top, which is what I did with the Dougie Hamilton one yesterday. 2 shots on goal for Shane Gostisbehere. So just a reminder, another Andy invention that 2 years from now, someone will say, oh, what do you mean? The power play 2 floater with the defenseman who's at plus money point? Yeah, we've been doing that for years. As I once again make something up, and then years later somebody would say, no, line combos, we were always doing those. It was a simple thing. We all thought of that. Well, did you think of this? Of course not, but that's why.
You never had your car.
Yes, that's right, you don't. So what else do we have on this slate? I said there were other line combinations that I potentially like, and this is going to stem from some movement in Montreal. Montreal, they're in one of these pickles where they don't know what to do with the third player on the top line. First, we saw Slafkovsky. He was getting points, but then he got hurt. Dach was put up there. Then he was getting points. Then Slafkovsky comes back, so they move Dach down to try to balance out the production. That just hurt everything. So now what are they doing? They've returned Dach to the top line. And if he's on that top line in a home game against Calgary, I do think this could be a potential upset. I do lean Montreal money line here. But what I like is that Kirby Dach plus 105 point. I like his plus 105 point. Him and Caulfield as a line combo. And I'll take them for an upset. So give me Dach in that game. Then you got the New York Islanders hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's the same story with Pittsburgh. They got those 3 guys on the top line, Malkin, Crosby, Raquel, and either they're doing everything or the team isn't winning. On the Islanders side, they're missing Barzal, Duclair, and 3 of their starting 6 defensemen. So they have 3 AHLers in there, which means I think there's going to be opportunity for those top Penguins to get on the score sheet. Crosby's as hot as you can be. He's getting 2 points every game. I like Crosby in this spot because Sorokin's probably not going to be playing. He played the last 2. They're trying to manage his workload coming off that back surgery. So if we're getting Varlamov, who has been having a lackluster year, the Isles are missing 3 defensemen, and we got that top line who has to do everything, and we all know that they're on the top power play. Give me the over 1.5 points for Sidney Crosby. And then lastly, something I've been experimenting with on the Patreon. I've nailed it in back-to-back nights. I'm trying to sniff out a good plus money under half of a point. One that's not just out of the blue. There's rhyme, there's reason. Last night was Steven Stamkos. I mentioned the under 3.5 shots on goal, but I gave out the under half of a point because, as I mentioned in that video yesterday, he was on that dreaded second line that was awful with him and Marchessault. So once he got moved off of Nyquist's line and then they put Marchessault and Stamkos back together, that was a good reason to take the under half of a point on him. 2 days ago, you had the Islanders going into Madison Square Garden to play the Rangers, where Shesterkin's been playing incredible. I took the under half of a point on Bo Horvat at plus like 130 because he was playing with Lee and Pajot, which is a lot different than playing with Duclair and Barzal. That one hit. So today I was stuck between two. The first was a wild one. He got benched in the third period last game. And if he had more turnovers, I thought maybe there would be a demotion to send a signal to him. But I watched his post-game interview, and I don't think it's going to mean to any ice time reduction. And that was Pastrnak. I really was going to go on his under half of a point against the Leafs, but I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going with Nick Schmaltz under half of a point, plus 125. Remember, he was removed off of that Clayton Keller line, so he's on that second line now, which hasn't been as productive as when he was up top. I would never take this if he was still playing with Hayton and Keller, but now with Michelli, which is just, it's not the same, and they're playing in Winnipeg, a team who's traditionally great defensively, although they've been getting in some random track meets lately. But even if it is a game where they're trading chances, we know Connor Hellebuck's one of the top 3 goalies in the league. So you got him back there to bail you out just in case. Like Shesterkin made an incredible save on Horvat. Against another goalie, probably would have went in, but it didn't. But that was also factored in. The reason I'm going with Schmaltz is he's on the second line. He's off Keller's line. Yes, he's on the top power play, but we got a team who's typically good defensively at home and a Vezina winning goalie. So that's a calculated plus money under half of a point on Nick Schmaltz. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's a sniff. You knew I was going to give you some goods after a mail-in Monday. Good luck to you. Honestly, with all the screenshots and all, good luck to all 19 of your screenshots. Better luck to my singular ones. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel here. It's very much appreciated. It helps the channel grow. I'll continue to be motivated because, you know, if I don't see them clicks, then I got no motivation to give them sniffs. And obviously, more than appreciated, you would have benefited from the under half of a point on Steven Stamkos if you were over on the Patreon with all the other sniffers who have all 15 of their screenshot parlays in the chats. That's also where, you know, I'll send out, there's going to be a deep list tomorrow. I'll send out those line combinations. Remember, sometimes you have to wait right before the games because some lines are in flux. So like, oh, why don't you send it out early? Oh, because the lines aren't all available yet, and then I'll just be sending you names, and you're going to be pissed when you lose. So that's why we send them out a little bit closer to game time. I try to get the majority of them out like an hour or two before. Anyway, hopefully I see you on the Patreon. If not, I will see you tomorrow for another round of NHL Sniffs. Take it easy. Have a good one, and I will talk to you then.